Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm Evolvino Shorty, and apologies for the lack of reviews last week. It wasn't there wasn't anything new out, but every single issue one we had came in last week was already reserved and sold before you had a chance to have a look at it. Thankfully, it's not the case this week, because I ordered extras of the Immortal Thor. I ordered extras for one simple reason. Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk sold out far too quickly, and I was very annoyed because I really wanted to read it and put it on my pull list. This time, I got extras. Literally, I've only got 2 spare now, and I ordered like 5 extras. So this has already proven to be a very popular thing, partly because I think the last time Al Ewing absolutely hit it out of the park was Immortal Hulk, and Immortal Hulk, and it did have a little bit of a negative thing at the end when we find out who the artist actually was and what they were like. So this is him, I think, taking another big swing, trying to get out of the park, and I think he's absolutely done it. There's a lot to love about this comic book, a lot. But I'm also going to have a rant at the end of this review about Norse mythology and history, so I'm going to get through the actual review main bit of it first, but if you want to see me get annoyed about things, stick around, it's going to happen. What do I like about this comic book, though? Well, an awful lot. As I say, there's really nothing I disliked about it. There's a few things where they don't quite do everything I wanted. Like, artistry work, I absolutely adored almost everything about it. The colouring and the inking go together perfectly. The line work is not too much, the colouring isn't either. It can be bold when it needs to, it can be deep when it needs to, but it isn't unless it needs to be. It allows the world to feel naturalistic. Hell, the colouring actually looks like it's done by hand. And I like that. And I like the fact there's hatching and shading done into the inking and penciling as well. It all comes together in an absolutely fantastic body of work. There's also, near the end, a double set of splash pages. Something which Ewing did in Immortal Hulk issue 1, but much closer to the beginning, I think. And I genuinely was amazed when he did it then. Seeing him do it again now, but closer to the end, in such a fantastic way, where he allowed the art and the colouring to properly go to town, showing depth and richness that it's been there throughout, but absolutely telegraphing and making sure everyone knows that this is going to be a hugely immersive, impressive experience. If you read the back matter, he spends a bit of time talking about how much he liked the idea of Thor being something otherworldly, something bigger and better and more than the other Avengers, but also loved his smile. We get a sense of that throughout this comic book. The artist and the writer clearly worked really well together to get this perfect. And when I say that, I mean, yeah, sometimes in the action sequences, there's a little bit too much reliance on emotion lines rather than actual showing motion within a still image, which is a tricky thing to do, don't get me wrong. But I think that's something which I can grow into. I'm okay with the fact that it's not front and centre. Although there is action in this comic book, it's far more about the story. And here we get on to the other thing I like about it. Because, as I've said, Al Ewing can write. He's got game. He has done some absolutely amazing comic books, and some which have not been for me, but I can at least admit that they're well written. Responsible for one of my favourite bits of a Venom comic book in recent years, where he totally leans into the idea of a very angsty teenage boy, and it was fantastic. This is him at his best, I think. This is him doing world building without bogging you down with it. It's building up a huge narrative arc involving multiple moving parts, which will almost certainly have surprises and betrayals throughout it. But he does it in such a way that allows you to feel like you're part of it. Again, to compare it to his Immortal Hulk, I'm not a big Hulk fan, but he always managed to reference history of the character in such a way that it made sense internally. It was consistent, it didn't bog you down with unnecessary detail, it also didn't expect you to know a bunch of stuff and then kind of punish you if you didn't know it. This, it has elements of that, but it also just allows itself to be a huge, grand, over-the-top story, even within this first, admittedly oversized issue. It is fantastic. What makes it great is the characters. He writes brilliant characters, and he gives them absolutely astounding dialogue. As an example of this, in this issue, and I'm sure throughout an awful lot of Thor comic books, Loki is gender fluid, non-binary. They are, that's what they are. There's a couple of people make comments on it, nothing too offensive, a little bit of light ribbing between friends, but mostly they're all okay with them being them. And here comes a rant bit. There's probably some people online who are going to be unhappy about this, and my message to them is, Loki is canonically gender fluid, non-binary. And when I say that, I don't mean just within the Thor world comic books and the Marvel universe or anything like that. I mean historically within the best we have of primary source documents for Norse mythology, they are canonically non-binary. If you're thinking to yourself, oh, Shorty, you're talking out of your backside there, I'd invite you to go and look into Odin's horse, Sleipnir. It has 6 legs, it stands out, it's been in the Marvel Universe for quite a bit, and I'd like you to look at who gave birth to that horse, and when you find out it's Loki, I expect an apology from you. But I won't get one. People won't change their minds about this, because when we found out that Idris Elba was playing Heimdall, there was an awful lot of people who complained about the fact that he was a black guy, whereas Heimdall was described as a very white character. This is a descriptor. It has nothing to do with his character background, as far as I can remember from what I've read. It is literally just a way to describe him from a very Eurocentric point of view. And bear in mind, pretty much all of what we have considered primary source documentation are written by white European monks. They weren't written by the people at the time. Here's the thing, though. I'm willing to bet anyone who ever complained about Heimdall being played by a black guy, and anyone who's going to complain about Loki being gender fluid and non-binary, has never once complained about Sif not being blonde. Lady Sif is not only blonde, her blondness is a huge part of the origin story of Mjolnir. It is part of the mythology, her blondness is canonical. And if you don't complain about that, but you only complain about the other stuff, generally makes me think that what you're actually trying to do is draw attention to and highlight the fact that you believe that cis-het white people deserve to be given a prominent place, and anything that happens against that is not cool. And that shows off to your privilege and the fact that you're generally not a nice person. Where was I? Oh yeah, this is a really good comic book. You should totally check it out. Everyone involved does an absolutely fantastic job, and unlike Hulk, which I really enjoyed but totally missed out because the demand for it was so high, and I own a comic book shop, all I wanted to do was sell comic books. In this particular instance, I have put one to one side for myself, I've taken one of the variants for it, and I have actually added it to my pull list. It is that good. It is absolutely worth you checking out. It has been a while since I've been this impressed with Al Ewing, and I think I'm finding myself leaning more into watching him develop huge stories rather than coming and do little 4-issue or single-issue mini-stories. They're fine, they're fun, he can have some fun with that, but he's at his best when he is unleashed and allowed to play and go to town and do massive things. And I think this is going to be such a thing, and I can't wait to see how the rest of it goes. That's it from me today. I'll hopefully come back with some more reviews this week. There's a couple more things that I've got that I want to read, including Penguin at the bare minimum. So until I see you again, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.